You're listening to the LSG Sports Network, the authority on Texas high school football. Welcome to the Texas High School Football Coaches Show on Lone Star Gridiron. I'm Chris Daly, and it's my belief that the men that make up the fraternity of Texas high school football coaches are much more than a bunch of thick-necked guys with whistles. They do so much more than teach technique and the X's and O's of football. They take young boys and change them into young men of character. They get kids to believe in themselves, to trust others, and to put others ahead of themselves. Texas high school football coaches are unique in how they impact the lives of these athletes as well as the generations those kids touch. In this show, I sit down with a different Texas high school football coach each time and learn about them. Not their record, not their on-field accomplishments, but who they are and what they believe and what it means to be part of the greatest sport in the greatest state. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Texas High School Football Coaches Show, Season 6. Yes, Season 6, Episode 1. And as you know, first episode of the season, we like to interview our title sponsor. Our title sponsor this year is PowerPlus Mouthguards, developed by Dr. Michael Hutchison. Yes, I will introduce you to him right after this message. When all things are equal between coaches and players and situations, what is the big difference in a winning program and a losing program? Well, I tell you, I think a big factor is the information you have available as a coach. And our sponsor, Optimum Grading, can do so much to help you have that information. They provide a comprehensive, fully customizable web application designed from a coach's perspective to analyze the players based on what the coach is teaching. By default, players are evaluated from their alignment, assignment, technique, effort, and production result. And through reports, a coach can understand where the player is exceeding and where he is struggling. But as I talked with the founder, what I discovered was what makes this system different than any other tracking system is that it is so customizable. You can decide what's important to you, and you only have to track those factors that you find important. This powerful platform integrates play data with the coach's input on every single play and ultimately allows the coach to run detailed reports to uncover how the players are performing overall and in situational football. It's really good stuff. Check it out, OptimumGrading.com. I tell you, this is a tool that will separate winners from losers. All right, everybody, join me in welcoming Dr. Michael Hutchison from PowerPlus Mouthguard to the show. How are you doing?
Everything's great today. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you bet. And I have to thank you, and the coaches listening will have to thank you for being a sponsor of this show. Dr. Hutchison, can you give me a little idea about your background? I've looked in and I saw you're into neuromuscular dentistry. What the heck is that?
Well, that is an area of discipline that deals with how the jaw fits together with the skull and the associated muscles and nerves, which is what really basically drew me to figure out how to make a physiologic mouth guard. So this is what brought me to this point. We deal a lot with TMJ, migraine, headache, pain patients, and we help people overcome that malady, which is very debilitating.
So now a lot of people, when you hear concussion, you think, oh, they don't have good helmets or they take too many hits. The idea of your jaw alignment being involved in that in any way just is kind of foreign. So kind of explain that.
Well, I mean, you can think that, when you're dealing with a brain injury that, logically thinking that the kind of thought process we all have is that somehow the brain got physically injured by some sort of event, some sort of trauma to the actual part of the skull that holds the brain in place, and the brain got shaken around inside the skull. That's kind of what the logical thinking is. But we know from military that just a blast of energy creates concussions. The person doesn't even have to be touched by anything. It's just that force that comes across. And when we look at how the jaw relates to it, jaw attaches by muscles and ligaments to the bottom of the skull. There's a bone called the sphenoid bone, and like a butterfly, and each joint sits in that little bone, and the brain sits kind of right on top of it. So when you receive a blow to the jaw or the mandible, that force gets translated up to the brain, unless you set it in its perfect physiologic jaw position, which then does not allow that force to jump across the gap between the ball and the socket. So it has to go somewhere else, and it gets dissipated away from the brain. And that's the concept of what physiologic jaw position does in relation to dropping the concussion rate. Because, as you know, especially in football, the jaw is not protected in any way. In fact, made worse by the chin strap that holds the helmet on, holding that jaw up against the bone-to-bone relationship. So when you receive a blow in that direction, where the jaw can conduct that force, it just gets translated right up to the brain. So this is how the jaw participates in concussions, and I feel that it's about 20%, because for the last 5 decades, the concussion rate has been about the same, and that's been about 20%, unreported and reported. And we've changed the helmets, we've done everything we can, but it just stays the same. The only thing that we haven't done is change the mouthguard. We haven't changed the relationship between the jaw and the skull. So that's why we keep getting the same results after year of concussions. And so if you put the jaw in that physiologic jaw position, you drop that concussion rate down to 0.2%.
So when I was growing up playing football, we had these basically 99-cent mouth guards that you go home, you boil them, you stick them in your mouth, and that was it. So that doesn't put your jaw in the right position?
No, because it turns out that 95 to 98% of us, through genetics and everything that's associated with us growing up, nutrition and all that, we all have an occlusion or bite that isn't optimal. And it seems like that's where some of our deficiency ends up. Through the studies, we found that most people, their bite isn't in physiologic rest position. The only way that you can get that is by swallowing. So if you take that concept and extrapolate it over to the mouth guards that are being worn, first of all, they were invented and developed in 1950. So the concept back then came about because some Notre Dame players were breaking their teeth playing football, and so the American Dental Association came up with a mouth guard that would protect you from breaking your teeth. So here we are 70 years later, and it's the same concept, the same technology. So if you're interested in just keeping your teeth from breaking, 99 cents is the mouth guard you should use, because all the rest of them are exactly the same as that 99 cent, and that's all you really need. But here's the kicker. Well, part of the problem is we call vertical dimension. That's the distance or height of your bite. And so everybody has a different height. But the the zone of physiologic jaw position is pretty much a constant. So you may have too little of a height, so you might be biting down too much. Let's say you're biting down 10 millimeters too much, then your mouth guard needs to be 10 millimeters thick to get you back to that physiologic jaw position, which is the safest and neurologically the best jaw position. If you have a perfect bite, you don't need very much. You just need some material to keep you from breaking your teeth. So your mouth guard should be about a millimeter or two thick to keep you in that zone. But the problem is that all manufacturers with mouth guards make their mouth guard one thickness for every person. So therefore, it's just a tooth protector. It's not, doesn't do anything for you. And in matter of fact, it makes you worse when it comes to strength and balance if you are not open enough or too open from that material. For example, I'm going to go out, be bold, and say that the worst mouth guard that could ever be worn for performance and safety is a pacifier mouth guard. That thing is way too thick. It opens you way too much. It puts your jaw into a relationship that translates G-forces. It makes you so you can't breathe. So your oxygen intake is greatly diminished. And for football or any other sport, you can't talk. So it's just one of those things that gets into be a fad, and people don't know that it diminishes their strength, their balance, their oxygen intake, and keeps them and puts them more susceptible to a concussion.
And so you developed the PowerPlus mouth guard, and talk about that transition, how you came up with that.
Well, in 2000, I was practicing, well, I still am, but I started really working with neuromuscular dentistry. I started working with many TMJ patients with headaches, migraines, and neck problems. And when I got them stabilized, their pain went away. Many of them would come to me and say, something really strange has happened. I have more energy. I don't want to take a nap in the afternoon. I feel stronger. There's, some of the housewives that say I got these boxes that I schlep around, and I feel like I can move them because I don't know. Do you know anything about that? And doing the research, I found that there was some evidence that physiologic jaw position gave you increase in strength. And so I started testing it. And just so happened that there was a guy in town. He was a police chief and the fire chief, and he was a bench press power lifter on the USA bench press team. And he had won a national championship lifting 398 pounds bench press in the over 65-year-old category, and said that he wanted to go to Prague and represent the United States and break the world record. And he was working really hard to do it, but he's never lifted more than 398 pounds. And so out of faith, I called him up and said, I can get you your world record. I didn't know if I could or not, but I just had faith that I could, knowing the principles. And so he came over, I made him a physiologic mouth guard. He went out that night and lifted 455 pounds, got scared and quit, but felt like he could do more. And so I asked him for his weightlifting logs, and for the next 6 weeks he got up to 525 pounds, went over to Prague, lifted 455 pounds and broke the world record, and stood for 10 years. So I knew that there was something about physiologic jaw position that could benefit everybody. And at the time, it was strength. And as time went on, I took some more tests from people. I had 7 St. Louis Blues players that I made a mouth guard for. And this was the first inkling that it had anything to do with concussions. None of those guys had a concussion, and all of them told me that they had and the stats proved that they had the best seasons that they've ever had. And then, fast forward to like the next year, my son, I went down to the Seattle Mariners training camp because one of their AAA coaches had been using it, biking, and he just really thought it was great. And I didn't get much headway with them, but I came back knowing that I needed data really to make things happen. And so I went to my son's 8th grade football coach, and I had a friend here that's an orthodontist, and his son played for a Catholic high school. So those two schools, I've made physiologic mouth guards for all those boys for 6 years through senior year, and not one of those 110 boys had a concussion in 6 years. So I knew that something with physiologic jaw position had something to do with concussion mitigation. And meanwhile, during that time, Wayne State University's biomedical engineering department caught wind of it and wanted to test it for strength, and did, and wrote a paper that they published and presented internationally, showing a 16.8% increase in strength when the subject is placed in physiologic jaw position. So that was when I sent the patent in 2009, and I was awarded a patent in Mexico, Canada, and the United States in 2015 for physiologic jaw position. And since then, I've kept track of concussions over the time up until this last season. We've had 1,500 teams in California, or 1,500 subjects, students, athletes in California and Texas with 0 concussions happening, and we've had 5,500 athletes over the years with 9 concussions total. So that's a 2.2% concussion rate when you put somebody in their physiologic jaw position. And that's not just football. That's every sport, from hockey to soccer to girls basketball to, I just had a boxer who won a light heavyweight bout in Atlantic City last Saturday wearing a physiologic jaw position.
Nice. So let me ask you a question. From my understanding, and this is total layman's point of view, I'm hearing that the thickness of the mouth guard puts you in the correct position. Is that something, when you get it, you have to go to a dentist and get somebody to measure something? How is that determined? No,
and that's a really good point, because when I came to the determination that there was scientific proof that physiologic jaw position was beneficial in many ways, I wanted to have a way that you could order it and any kid could follow the directions and reach physiologic jaw position on their own. And so developed a technique, and it's basically swallowing puts your jaw in that physiologic jaw position, because your autonomic nervous system takes over when you swallow.
Nice.
And positions your own personal jaw through its muscles and neurology into that physiologic jaw position, while the warm plastic is cooling down to body temperature. And once it's set, then you're always in the physiologic jaw position. You're never out of it. And that's the important thing, because if you don't have it, then when you swallow 2,500 times a day, and you swallow a lot more when you're out playing football. And every time that you swallow, then your jaw goes or you clench your teeth on your 99-cent mouth guard, you're going to be out of that zone like a big rubber band is holding you back. And you're rolling your joint back up against the skull. So if you happen to get hit right, there goes the G-forces up to your brain. So It's very easy to do, but it's not a situation where you just throw it in the hot water, put it in your mouth, and bite down as hard as you can. That's not what you want to do. You want to swallow, and
right.
And you have to have the right thickness, because and that's where PowerPlus design comes in. So you have to measure yourself, and then you have to add material if you need it. If you don't need it, you don't add the material. You have to have the right thickness for you, and that's really the important thing. Each person has an individual physiologic trout position.
Got it. So coaches who are now convinced, they say, okay, the science is out there. This will greatly not only reduce the chance of concussions, but increase strength, increase balance, increase all the things they want. How do they get a hold of these mouth guards?
Well, the best way to do it is for a coach or an athletic director is just to go on the website. There's all kinds of information on there, and then there's contact information. Mm-hmm. And the best way is just to get a hold of us, because we need to find out what you need and what colors and, all those things, and set a package together for a coach or mm-hmm. a school district. Individually, people can just, go on and order one, and it'll come right to their house. But for teams, we need to do a little extra work for it. And there's also team prices that for the higher numbers, we give you a little bit of a deal for that. So that's something that you really need to contact us on.
Nice. So is that website and the phone number to reach you at?
Okay, so the website is PowerPlusMouthguard.com. Mm-hmm. That's PowerPlusMouthguard.com. And the phone number is 231-645-4975.
Sweet. Yeah, I can't recommend enough. And as I talk to coaches, I'm gonna be spreading the news about that, because it's pretty exciting. Dr. Hutchison, I want to thank you so much for sitting down and sharing some of your story, but also for sponsoring this show so that coaches can learn from other coaches as well.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to do it. That's the thing that's so important, is that new technology comes around, but if you can't find out about it, you don't think it exists. But hopefully this is a great way to get everybody to the knowledge that there is a better way, and this thing must be done, because right now kids are having concussions this day in their sports, mm-hmm. and it can be prevented.
Sounds good. Well, thanks again.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the PowerPlus Mouthguard Texas High School Football Coaches Show. Look for more great coach interviews each and every episode. And hey, if you know of a coach that you think should be featured on this show, reach out to me or have them reach out to me at 713-269-4620. Again, for the PowerPlus Mouthguard Texas High School Football Coaches Show, I'm Chris Daly, and we'll see you at the game.